Well, if you're a fan of the Liquify tool, then you're going to love this tip because it's going to make life a lot easier. If you're not a fan of the Liquify tool, become a fan of the Liquify tool. It doesn't get a lot of play because I think people automatically think the worst, like I'm going to do crazy things with the photo with the Liquify tool, but it is such a good subtle retouching tool that I think this tip is really important to make it easier to use. So here's the idea. As I look at this photo, what I'd probably want to do is come over here, and her dress kind of poofed out a little bit. That's not the shape of her body. It just kind of poofs out a little bit down here. And what I want to do is kind of tuck that in. Okay. Well, if I go to filter Liquify, it's going to run Liquify on this entire layer. If you look at the image size, this is a high resolution photo. So what happens is Liquify is pretty intensive as far as what it's doing behind the scenes, that it causes Photoshop to run a little slower. So what we can do here is, and this is a little tip. First off, make a separate layer, and that way you can compare your Liquify results easily. We can turn this on and off to see before and after, but we make a separate layer. I'm going to take a selection tool. It could be any selection tool. It could be the lasso tool. And all we're going to do is make a selection of the area that we want to fix. Because now when I go to filter Liquify, Photoshop is just going to work on that portion of the photo. All right, it's not going to bring the whole photo in here, which is what causes Liquify to kind of slow up sometimes. So we'll take a little bit of a larger brush here. All right, and then what I would do is very simply just come down here and just to start, I'll take a little bit of a smaller brush and just start to tuck this away a little bit. All right, and I'll be careful when I get down to here to not create this little edge weirdness for it. So I'll just drag it down a little bit here and just tuck in. Very, very small movements, just tuck it in. And then I'll make my brush even smaller. And then we'll come in here and get a little bit closer toward the hand. Notice I'm using the very top tool here. This is the one I use the most in Liquify, the forward warp, because all I'm going to do is just tuck things. I'm not bloating and increasing the size of things and weirdness and stuff like that. So don't think of Liquify as this tool that only does evil. Liquify can be a very useful tool. In fact, let's go over here and kind of just tuck that in a little too. Right there. There we go. There we go. All right, I could probably spend a little bit more time to get that straight, but hey, we don't want to do that. There we go. All right, I'll hit OK here. And notice how fast Liquify moved. Sometimes when I'm in Liquify and I forget to do that trick, what'll happen is that I'll make a movement and it won't happen for another 5 seconds because Photoshop's got to catch up. So let's take a look. That's before, that's after. Again, before and after. I'd probably even go in just after I'm looking at it with the whole photo here. I'd probably even go in and get a really big brush and kind of bring that in and down. All right, and I know it's starting to create that little bit of a seam there. If you look that there, right there, we've got that little transparent seam. I'm okay with that because there's a really easy way to fix it, which is we'll click OK and deselect, grab the crop tool. And if you did have a seam down there, it's very easy to go in there and to crop that out. Okay, but that's one of the uses of the Liquify tool. Just remember, it is such a good tool for going in and kind of just tucking in certain areas in a photo that maybe you didn't see when you were shooting. Okay, it could be little flyaways, little areas in hair, anything like that. A wrinkle in clothes, something you didn't see when you were shooting, and sometimes it's hard to see, especially if there's a lot going on. But it's a very useful tool to go in afterwards to work with. If you make a selection first, it makes it a lot easier to work with in the end.